The escape pod hit the moon's surface hard. Princess Lyra felt every bone in her body shake from the impact. Alarm screamed inside the tiny craft and smoke filled the air. She coughed and tried to breathe through the panic that seized her chest. This was not how diplomatic missions were supposed to end. Hours ago, she had been aboard the Imperial cruiser Dawn's Light, traveling to meet with neutral worlds about peace treaties. Then the pirates came. Ships appeared from nowhere, cutting through her escort like knives through silk. In the chaos, her guards had thrown her into an escape pod and launched it toward the nearest planetary body. Now she was alone on a barren moon, injured and terrified. Lyra forced herself to move. Her long fingers, elegant and delicate like all Vexians, trembled as she activated the distress beacon. The pod's computer informed her that atmosphere outside was breathable but thin. Gravity was higher than she was used to. Everything hurt. She had been taught since childhood that the galaxy was a dangerous place. Her tutors had filled her head with stories of savage races and brutal empires. But none frightened her people more than humans, Deathworlders they called them. A species that evolved on a planet so hostile that every other civilized race considered it a nightmare. Heavy gravity, deadly predators, extreme weather. Somehow humans not only survived but thrived. They spread across the stars with frightening speed, and wherever they went they brought their warrior nature with them. Lyra had never met a human. She had only seen images and videos. They looked strange with their flat faces, forward-facing eyes, and thick bodies built for violence. The Vexian Empire maintained cold relations with humanity, viewing them as useful but dangerous neighbors. Now, stranded and hurt, Lyra prayed that anyone but humans would answer her distress call. The universe, it seemed, did not listen to prayers. 3 hours after the crash, sensors detected incoming ships. Lyra's heart sank when she identified the signatures. Human military vessels, Colonial Defense Force markings. She wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The moon's surface stretched empty in all directions. Her pod was damaged beyond repair. She had no weapons, no guards, and her body already ached from the crash. So Princess Lyra of the Vexian Empire did the only thing she could. She waited. The human ships landed 50 meters from her pod. They were angular and efficient, built for war rather than elegance. Ramps descended and armored figures emerged. Lyra had thought herself prepared. She was wrong. The humans were terrifying. Each one stood nearly twice her height, encased in armor that made them look even more massive. They moved with purpose and precision, weapons held ready. When they approached her pod, she felt her whole body begin to shake. It was not a choice. Her species had evolved on a peaceful world with low gravity and few predators. Every instinct in her body recognized these creatures as apex hunters. Her hands trembled. Her breath came fast and shallow. The rational part of her mind screamed that she was a princess, that she should maintain dignity, but her body would not obey. The lead human reached her pod first. He was the largest of the group, armor painted with rank insignia she did not recognize. When he looked at her through his helmet's visor, Lyra felt certain she was about to die. Then he did something unexpected. He removed his helmet. The human face beneath was not what she expected. Yes, he had the forward-facing predator's eyes and the strong jaw of a carnivore, but his expression was gentle. When he saw her trembling, his features softened into something that looked almost like concern. Then he smiled. It was not a threatening display of teeth. It was warm and genuine, crinkling the corners of his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was calm and measured. "Hey there, my name's Jake Morrison. I'm a sergeant with the Colonial Defense Force. We picked up your distress signal. Are you hurt?" Lyra tried to speak but could not force words past her fear. She pressed herself against the far wall of the pod, hating how weak she must look. Jake glanced back at his team and made a hand gesture. The other humans took a step back, giving her more space. Then he slowly, carefully, lowered himself to one knee. It brought him closer to her eye level, made him seem less overwhelming. "It's okay to be scared," he said quietly. "You've been through something traumatic. But I promise you're safe now. We're here to help." One of the other humans, a woman with short dark hair, approached. She had also removed her helmet and carried a medical kit. "I'm Corporal Amy Chen," she said. Her voice was softer than Jake's, but equally calm. "I'm going to scan you for injuries, if that's all right. I won't touch you without permission." The scanner made a soft humming noise as Amy moved it over Lyra's body. The human woman explained everything she was doing in simple, clear language. "You've got some bruised ribs and a minor concussion," Amy reported. "Nothing life-threatening, but you need treatment. Our ship has a medical bay. It's warm, safe, and comfortable." Jake reached into a pouch on his armor and pulled out a container of water. He opened it slowly, showing her it was sealed and safe, then held it out. "You must be thirsty," he said. Lyrae stared at the water, then at Jake's face. His smile had faded into something more serious but no less kind. He was watching her with patience, making no move to force her to take it. Her throat was desperately dry. Slowly, her trembling hand reached out and took the container. The water was cool and clean. She drank it all. "Good," Jake said softly. "That's good. Now we need to get you somewhere safe. The pirates who attacked your ship are still in the area. This moon isn't secure. Will you let us take you to our ship?" Every lesson Lyrae had ever learned screamed at her to refuse. Humans were dangerous. Humans could not be trusted. Humans were violent savages who would use her as a hostage or worse. But Jake Morrison did not look like a savage. He looked like someone who genuinely wanted to help, and she had no other choice. "Yes," she whispered. Her voice came out small and broken. "Please." Jake's smile returned, gentle and reassuring. "All right. Amy's going to walk you through what happens next. We'll go slow. If you feel uncomfortable at any point, you tell us and we'll stop." "Okay?" Lyrae nodded. Getting out of the pod was harder than she expected. Her body hurt and the moon's gravity was too strong for her. When she stumbled, Jake caught her. His hands were enormous but surprisingly gentle. He supported her weight easily, as if she weighed nothing at all. The walk to the human ship felt like a dream. Jake stayed beside her the whole way, talking in that same calm voice about meaningless things, the weather on his homeworld, how his team had been running drills when her distress call came through, how their ship's cook made the best coffee in the fleet. It was clear he was trying to distract her from her fear, and somehow impossibly it was working. The inside of the human ship was nothing like Vexian vessels, where her people favored open spaces and natural light. This was all efficiency and purpose, but it was also clean and well-maintained. The crew they passed in the corridors nodded respectfully to her. No one stared or made threatening gestures. They brought her to the medical bay where another human waited. This one was older, with gray hair and kind eyes. She introduced herself as Commander Lisa Grant, the ship's doctor. "You're going to be fine," Lisa said firmly. "We'll patch you up, get some food in you, and then you can rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out how to get you home safely." Lyrae was placed on a medical bed that adjusted itself to her smaller frame. The equipment around her hummed softly, monitoring her vital signs. Lisa worked with efficient gentleness, treating her injuries while explaining each step. Jake stayed nearby, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. He was still smiling slightly, watching to make sure she was comfortable. "Why?" Lyrae finally asked. Her voice was stronger now, though still shaky. "Why are you helping me?" Jake tilted his head, considering the question. "Because you needed help. That's reason enough, isn't it? But I am Vexian. Your people and mine are not friends." "No," Jake agreed. "But that doesn't mean we have to be enemies either. You're a person in trouble. That's all that matters." Lyrae did not understand. In the Vexian Empire, aid was granted based on status, usefulness, or political advantage. Kindness for its own sake was rare, especially toward outsiders. "You keep smiling at me," she said quietly, "even when I flinch away from you." "Why?" Jake's expression softened. "Because I figure if I were stranded and scared on an alien moon, I'd want someone to remind me that things would be okay. That's all the smile means. It means you're going to be all right." For the first time since the attack, Lyrae felt something besides fear. She did not know what to call it yet. Hope, perhaps, or maybe just the beginning of trust. She was still trembling, but less than before, and when Jake smiled at her one more time before leaving to let her rest, she almost smiled back. Almost. 3 days aboard the human ship changed everything Lyrae thought she knew about Deathworlders. The vessel was called Valor's Grace, a medical frigate that served the outer colonies. It was not the massive warship she had expected. Instead, it was designed for rescue operations and humanitarian missions. The crew of 200 moved through their duties with calm efficiency, and not one of them treated her like a prisoner. Commander Lisa Grant visited her twice daily to check on her recovery. The doctor was patient and thorough, always explaining what she was doing and why. She brought Lyrie books about human medicine and biology, thinking she might find them interesting. She did, very much so. Lyrie learned that humans were even stranger than she had imagined. Their homeworld, Earth, had gravity nearly twice what her body was built for. They had evolved as hunters, chasing prey across vast distances until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies were designed for endurance, strength, and adaptability. But Lisa explained something that Vexian teachers had never mentioned. Humans had not survived Earth through violence alone. They had survived through cooperation. We're pack hunters, Lisa explained one morning while checking Lyrie's healing ribs. Humans need other humans. We evolved to work together, to care for our sick and injured, to share resources. Empathy isn't a weakness for us. It's a survival trait. Lyrie struggled to accept this. But you are so strong, so dangerous. Why would you need empathy? Lisa smiled. It was that same gentle expression Jake wore. Lyrie was learning that humans smiled for many reasons, and most of them were friendly. Strength without compassion makes monsters, Lisa said simply. We learned that lesson the hard way in our own history. Now we try to be better. The doctor paused, then added, You're scared of us. That's understandable. But I want you to know something. Fear is a natural response to the unknown. It doesn't make you weak. What you do despite that fear, that's what matters. Lyrie thought about those words long after Lisa left. Jake visited her every day, usually in the evening after his duty shift ended. He would bring her things from different parts of the ship. A device for reading human books, samples of food from the galley. Once he brought a small plant in a pot. It's from Earth, he explained, setting it on the table beside her bed. A succulent. They're tough little things, can survive almost anything. I thought you might like something living to look at. The plant had thick green leaves arranged in a spiral pattern. Lyrie found it oddly beautiful. Jake would stay for an hour or two, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about growing up on a farming colony, about joining the Colonial Defense Force to see the galaxy. He talked about his family, his friends, the books he liked to read. He asked her questions too, always politely. What was her homeworld like? What did she study? Did Vexians have music? They did, and when Lyrie described it, Jake listened with genuine interest. It sounds beautiful, he said. Different from human music, but beautiful. I'd like to hear it someday. On the fourth day, Jake brought his guitar. It was a simple instrument, wood and strings, entirely mechanical. He played softly, filling the medical bay with gentle melodies. Lyrie had not expected a soldier to make art. The contradiction confused her. How could someone trained for war also create something so peaceful? When she asked, Jake laughed. It was a warm sound, free of mockery. Most soldiers I know have hobbies, he said. Art, music, cooking, gardening. We're people, not just weapons. The military is what we do, not who we are. He played a few more songs, then set the guitar aside. Can I ask you something personal? Jake's expression turned more serious. Why were you traveling through that sector? It's pretty dangerous, especially for someone important like a princess. Lyrie hesitated. She was not supposed to discuss diplomatic missions with outsiders. But Jake had been nothing but kind, and something about his honest, open face made her want to trust him. I was trying to arrange peace talks, she admitted, between my people and some of the neutral worlds. Many in the Empire believe we should expand our territory, take what we want by force. I think that is wrong. I believe in cooperation and finding common ground. Jake nodded slowly. That takes courage. I bet not everyone in your government appreciates that view. No, Lyrie said quietly. They do not. Before Jake could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The lights shifted to red emergency illumination. Jake was on his feet instantly, his entire demeanor changing. The friendly musician vanished, replaced by the soldier. Stay here, he ordered, his voice sharp with authority. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or Lisa. Then he was gone, moving with frightening speed. Lyrie's hands started trembling again. She forced herself to the door controls and activated the lock, then retreated to the far corner of the room. The plant Jake had given her sat on the table, peaceful and unaware of the danger. She could hear sounds through the walls. Footsteps running. Shouted orders. The distant rumble of the ship's weapons firing. Pirates. It had to be pirates. Time stretched impossibly. Minutes felt like hours. Lyrie pressed herself against the wall and tried to remember how to breathe. Then, as suddenly as it started, the alarm stopped. The lights returned to normal. Lyra waited, every muscle tense. A knock on her door. 3 quick raps, then 2 slow ones. Jake's pattern. She opened the door. Jake stood there in full combat armor, weapon still in hand. There was no blood on him, but his armor bore fresh scorch marks. Behind him, other Marines were helping a young crew member who looked shaken but uninjured. When Jake saw Lyra, his expression softened immediately. "It's over," he said. 4 pirate ships tried to board us. They failed. Everyone's safe, Lyra stared at him. In the span of perhaps 20 minutes, this man had gone from playing gentle music to fighting off armed attackers. And now he stood before her with that same patient kindness in his eyes. "You're shaking again," he observed gently. "It's all right. You're safe." "I promise, and how?" The word burst from her. "How can you be so calm?" "You were just in battle." Jake glanced down at his armor, then back at her. He seemed puzzled by the question. "Training, I guess. And experience. This is what we do." He paused, then added, "But that doesn't mean it's easy. Come on. There's someone I want you to meet." He led her down the corridor to where the young crew member sat against the wall. She was human, probably barely an adult with wide, frightened eyes. Her hands were shaking worse than Lyra's. Jake knelt beside her with the same gentle patience he showed Lyra. "First combat situation?" he asked softly. The young woman nodded, unable to speak. "You did good, Ensign Parker. You stayed at your post, kept communications running. That's brave. Being scared doesn't mean you failed. It means you're smart enough to understand the danger, but you didn't let that fear stop you from doing your job." He stayed with the ensign for several minutes, talking her through the fear, making sure she was okay. Other crew members stopped to check on her too, offering water, reassurance, and support. Lyra watched in amazement. These warriors, these Deathworlders, were taking care of their frightened comrade with genuine compassion. Later, after things had settled down, Jake returned to walk Lyra back to her room. She had been cleared to move around the ship freely now, but everything still felt overwhelming. "Why did you show me that?" she asked. "The ensign, I mean." Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I wanted you to understand something. Yeah, humans can fight. We're good at it, maybe too good, but that's not all we are. We take care of each other. We feel fear just like you do. The difference is we've learned that fear is something you face together, not alone." They reached her quarters. Lyra turned to look up at Jake's face. Even without his armor, he was much larger than her. Everything about him should have been terrifying, but when he smiled at her, she did not feel afraid. "I have been taught my whole life that humans are dangerous," she said slowly. "That you are violent and unpredictable. That we should fear you. We are dangerous," Jake admitted. "We can be violent, but we choose not to be most of the time. That's what civilization means, having the capacity for violence but choosing peace instead." He started to leave, then paused. "Princess Lyra, can I ask you something? Why do you think your people fear us so much? Not just the physical strength, I mean. There are other strong species in the galaxy." Lyra considered the question carefully. "I think," she said slowly, "it is because you are strong but not cruel. You could dominate, but you choose to cooperate. That is more frightening than simple violence. It means we cannot predict you, cannot control you." Jake's smile widened. "You're smart." "That's exactly right. And for what it's worth, that diplomatic work you were doing, trying to build bridges instead of walls, that takes the kind of strength that matters most." After he left, Lyra sat in her quarters for a long time, thinking. The small plant Jake had given her sat on her desk, thriving despite being far from its home. Maybe, she thought, she could be like that plant. Adapt, grow in unexpected places, learn to be strong in new ways. Her hands had finally stopped trembling. For the first time since the attack, she felt something like hope. The morning, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake requested a meeting. Lyra knew something was wrong. Blake was the Valor's Grace intelligence officer, a quiet man with sharp eyes who had kept his distance during her stay. Now he sat across from her in a private conference room, a data pad between them, his expression grave. Captain Helen Price sat beside him, the ship's commanding officer. She was a tall woman with gray hair pulled back severely, her uniform immaculate. Lyra had met her only once before, briefly. Jake stood against the wall behind Lyra. She had asked him to be there. His presence made her feel safer. "Princess Lyra," Blake began carefully, "we've been analyzing the attack on your convoy. Something doesn't add up." He activated the data pad. Holographic images appeared above the table, showing ship schematics and weapon signatures. The pirates who attacked you were using military-grade Vexian weapons, not black market copies. Genuine Imperial Navy equipment. Blake's voice was professionally neutral, but his words hit like a blow. They also had detailed information about your travel route, which was supposed to be classified. Lyrae felt her blood turn cold. What are you saying? Someone in your government wanted you dead or captured, Captain Price said bluntly. This wasn't random piracy. It was an assassination attempt. The room tilted. Lyrae gripped the edge of the table, her fingers digging into the smooth surface. That's impossible. My father would never— Not your father, Blake interrupted gently. We don't think the Emperor ordered this. But there are factions in your empire that oppose his policies. Hardliners who want expansion and conflict. You've been vocal about peace initiatives, about cooperation with other species. That makes you a threat to their agenda. Jake moved closer, not touching her but present. Lyrae drew strength from his nearness. How certain are you? She asked, proud that her voice did not shake. Very certain, Blake said. He showed her more data, communications intercepts, financial records. The evidence was thorough and damning. Someone high in the Vexian military had arranged everything. There's more, Captain Price added. We've detected unusual Vexian ship movements near human space. Warships being positioned, supply lines being established. It looks like preparation for something big. War, Lyrae whispered. They want to start a war with humanity. We don't know that for certain, Price said. But we're concerned. And we believe you have information that could help us understand what's really happening in your empire. Lyrae knew they were right. As the Emperor's daughter, she had access to Imperial records, had attended council meetings, had overheard conversations not meant for her ears. She knew about the corruption, the suppressed reports of dissent on colony worlds, the secret military buildups. She could help humanity prepare, could maybe even prevent a war, but that would make her a traitor to her own people. I need time to think, she said quietly. Captain Price nodded. Of course. But there's something else you need to know. A Vexian warship is en route to this location. They're demanding we return you immediately. Lyrae's heart sank. How long? They'll be here in 6 hours. After the meeting, Jake walked with her to the observation deck. It was empty at this hour, offering a view of the stars beyond the ship. Lyrae pressed her hands against the transparent barrier, watching the distant lights. I don't know what to do, she admitted. What do you want to do? Jake asked. He leaned against the wall beside her, close but not crowding. I want to go home. I want everything to go back to normal. But I know it cannot. Lyrae closed her eyes. If I return to my people, whoever tried to kill me will try again. They will succeed eventually, and war will come anyway. And if you stay, then I am a traitor, an exile. My family will be shamed. My father will have to denounce me to maintain his position. Her voice cracked. Either choice destroys everything. Jake was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but firm. I can't tell you what to do. This is your choice, your life. But I can tell you what I see. I see someone brave enough to work for peace when war would be easier. Someone who survived an assassination attempt and is still thinking about others instead of just herself. That's not weakness, Princess. That's real strength. Lyrae turned to look at him. You think I should stay? I think you should do what your conscience tells you is right. But yeah, if you're asking my opinion, I think you could do a lot of good here. Help prevent a war. Save lives on both sides. He smiled slightly. And selfishly, I'd like to get to know you better. You're interesting company. Despite everything, Lyrae almost laughed. Interesting company? Is that what I am? Among other things. Jake's expression grew more serious. Look, I know you're scared. Anyone would be, but you don't have to face this alone. Whatever you decide, there are people here who will stand with you. The Vexian warship arrived exactly on schedule. The Valor's Grace received a transmission from Admiral Corthan, commander of the vessel, and a known hardliner in Imperial politics. Lyrae stood on the bridge beside Captain Price, watching the larger ship take up position. It was a heavy cruiser, bristling with weapons, a clear show of force. Corthan's face appeared on the screen. He was old for a Vexian, his features sharp and cruel. When he saw Lyrae, his expression showed barely concealed contempt. Princess, we have come to retrieve you and return you to proper Imperial custody. These humans have no authority to hold you. They are not holding me. Lyra said, surprised by the steadiness of her voice. They rescued me, cared for my injuries, treated me with respect. How convenient, Corthan sneered.
And what promises did they extract from you in exchange for this kindness?
What secrets have you shared? Captain Price stepped forward. Admiral, your princess is welcome to leave whenever she chooses. We have no intention of keeping her against her will. However, we will not release her to you until we are satisfied of her safety. You dare question the Empire's ability to protect its own royal family. Corthan's anger was palpable. This is an act of aggression. No, Lyra said. Everyone turned to look at her. This is an act of protection. From you and others like you. The bridge went silent. Corthan's face darkened with rage. Careful, little princess. Those are dangerous words. Truth is often dangerous, Lyra replied. I know what you did, Admiral. I know you arranged the attack on my convoy. I know you wanted me dead. She had no proof, only suspicion and Blake's intelligence. But the flash of guilt on Corthan's face before he masked it told her she was right. Treasonous lies, he spat. When you return to the Empire, you will answer for these accusations. I am not returning, Lyra said. The words hung in the air. She felt Jake's presence behind her, steady and supporting. Captain Price stood beside her, expression neutral but stance protective. Around the bridge, human crew members waited, ready to follow their captain's lead. What did you say? Corthan's voice was deadly quiet. Lyra took a breath. This was the moment. Once she spoke the words, there would be no going back. I claim asylum with the Human Colonial Defense Force. I will not return to the Vexian Empire while my life remains in danger from those who should protect me. The bridge erupted. Corthan was shouting, demanding, threatening. Captain Price calmly cut the transmission. Well, the captain said dryly, that could have gone better. Lyra felt her legs give out. Strong hands caught her. Jake lowered her gently into a chair. I just committed treason, she whispered. No, Jake said firmly. You just chose to live. There's a difference. Captain Price knelt beside her chair, meeting her eyes. Princess Lyra, do you understand what you've done? The political implications? Yes, Lyra said. I may have started a war. Possibly, Price admitted. Or possibly prevented one. We can't know yet. But you've made your choice. Now we need to keep you safe and figure out what comes next. The captain stood and addressed her bridge crew. Set course for New Haven Colony. Maximum speed. And someone get Lieutenant Commander Blake up here. We need to contact Fleet Command immediately. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Lyra sat in the chair, Jake standing guard beside her. Through the viewport, stars stretched into lines of light. She had left her old life behind. Her family, her home, her people. Everything she had ever known, but she was alive. And for the first time in years, she felt like she was doing something that truly mattered. Jake's hand rested gently on her shoulder. When she looked up at him, he was smiling. Brave, he said simply. That was really brave. Lyra wanted to say she did not feel brave. She felt terrified, lost, and uncertain. But she was also still here, still fighting, still trying to do what was right. Maybe that was what bravery really meant. Not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. What happens now? She asked. Now, Jake said, we make sure you're safe, find you somewhere secure, and then we figure out how to turn this situation into something good. You make it sound simple. It won't be, Jake admitted, but nothing worth doing ever is. Outside, the stars rushed past as they fled toward an uncertain future. Behind them, the Vexian warship followed at a distance, unable to pursue into human territory without triggering an incident. Lyra had made her choice. Now she would have to live with the consequences, whatever they might be, but at least she would face them on her own terms, and with unexpected allies at her side. New Haven was beautiful. Lyra had not expected that. When Captain Price told her they were taking her to a secure facility on a colony world, she had imagined military bunkers and gray walls. Instead, the transport descended toward a vibrant city nestled between mountains and ocean. The colony was young, maybe 30 years old, but already it thrived. Buildings rose in practical but elegant designs. Parks dotted the urban landscape. Most surprising were the people. Humans mixed freely with a dozen other species, walking the same streets, working together, living side by side. New Haven was founded as a cultural exchange hub, Jake explained as they flew over the city. People come here from all over the galaxy. It's one of the most diverse colonies in human space. The safe house was not a bunker either. It was a comfortable home in a quiet residential area, with large windows and a garden. Jake's unit would be stationed there for her protection. When she met the full team, Lyrie was nervous again. 4 humans in combat gear standing in the living room felt overwhelming, but Jake introduced them with easy warmth. "You already know Amy," he said, gesturing to Corporal Amy Chen. The tech specialist gave Lyrie a casual nod. "Still not dead," Amy said dryly. "That's a good sign. Try to keep it that way." "This is Carlos," Jake continued, indicating a broad-shouldered man with kind eyes. "He's our medic." Carlos smiled, and it reminded Lyrie of Jake's smile. Genuine and warm. "Call me if you need anything. And I mean anything. Headache, trouble sleeping, just want to talk. That's what I'm here for." "And this is Nicole Hayes, my second in command." Sergeant First Class Nicole Hayes was tall and muscular, with sharp features and watchful eyes. She studied Lyrie carefully, her expression neutral but not hostile. "I won't lie to you," Nicole said bluntly. "I'm not sure bringing you here was smart. You've put a lot of people at risk. But Jake trusts you and I trust Jake, so we'll keep you safe. Just don't make me regret it." Lyrie appreciated the honesty. "I understand. I do not want anyone hurt because of me." "Too late for that," Nicole replied. "But we knew the job was dangerous when we signed up. Come on, I'll show you your room." The room was simple but comfortable. A bed, desk, and large window overlooking the garden. Lyrie's few possessions had been brought from the ship. The small plant Jake gave her sat on the windowsill, still healthy. That first week passed in a blur. Lyrie was confined to the house and garden for security reasons. The team rotated guard duty, always keeping at least 2 people on watch. They were professional but not unkind. Amy spent hours teaching Lyrie about human technology, fascinated by how different it was from Vexian designs. Carlos checked on her health daily, making sure the stress was not causing physical problems. Even Nicole warmed to her gradually, playing card games in the evenings and telling stories about growing up on a mining colony. But it was Jake who spent the most time with her. When he was off duty, he would sit in the garden with Lyrie, talking about everything or sometimes nothing at all. He brought her books about human philosophy, music recordings, samples of art from different cultures. "I want you to understand us," he explained one evening as they watched the sunset. "Really understand. Not just that we're not monsters, but who we actually are." "Why does it matter so much to you?" Lyrie asked. Jake was quiet for a moment. "Because I think you're going to be important. Not just as a princess or a refugee, but as someone who can bridge our worlds. And I want to make sure you have the full picture when you make decisions about the future." Lyrie felt warmth spread through her chest. It was not fear this time. It was something else entirely. 2 weeks after they arrived, Lieutenant Commander Blake contacted them through secure channels. The news was not good. "Vexian intelligence has confirmed assassins are en route to New Haven," Blake reported. His face on the screen looked tired. "Professional killers, well equipped. They'll be there within a week." The team took the news calmly. They had been expecting it. "We're ready," Jake said. "The safe house has good defenses. We have backup from local security forces." "There's more," Blake continued. "We've been in contact with moderate elements in the Vexian government. There are people in the Empire who oppose the hardliners. They're trying to negotiate for your safety, but it's delicate. Any wrong move could trigger the war we're trying to prevent." Lyrie felt the weight of responsibility settle heavier on her shoulders. People were risking their lives because of her choices. Both humans and Vexians were in danger. "What can I do?" she asked. "Stay alive," Blake said simply, "and be ready to speak publicly if needed. Your voice matters, Princess, more than you might think." After the call ended, the team went into preparation mode. Amy upgraded the security systems. Nicole ran combat drills. Carlos prepared medical supplies. Jake walked the perimeter, checking sight lines and defensive positions. Lyrie watched them work, feeling useless. She was not a soldier. She had no skills that could help in a fight. All she could do was hide and let others risk themselves for her. That evening, she found Jake on the roof keeping watch. The city lights spread out below them, beautiful and peaceful. "I hate this," Lyrie said quietly. "Hiding while you prepare to fight for me." Jake glanced at her, then back at the city. "You're not hiding. You're surviving. That takes its own kind of courage. It does not feel brave." "It never does," Jake said. "Real courage usually feels like fear and doing the thing anyway." He paused, then added, "You want to know something? I'm scared too. Lyra looked at him in surprise. You are? Always before a fight. Fear keeps you sharp, keeps you alive. The trick is not letting it control you. Jake turned to face her fully. You've been afraid since the moment we met. But you're still here. Still trying to do the right thing. That's brave, Lyra. Whether you feel it or not. It was the first time he had used her name without the title. Something about hearing it in his voice made her heart beat faster. Jake, she said softly, if something happens to you because of me, I do not think I could bear it. He smiled, that gentle smile she had come to know so well. Nothing's going to happen to me. I'm too stubborn to die, and I've got too much left to show you about humanity. The attack came 3 days later in the early morning. Lyra woke to alarms and the sound of weapons fire. Carlos burst into her room already in full combat gear. Stay down, he ordered, pulling her from the bed. We're moving you to the safe room. The house erupted into controlled chaos. Through the windows, Lyra saw figures moving in the darkness. The assassins had come. Carlos rushed her down the stairs. Amy was at a security console, hands flying over controls. Nicole was at the front entrance, weapon raised. 6 contacts, Amy reported. Well armed and trained. They're trying to breach the north wall. Jake? Nicole asked. Already engaging, Amy said. He's got 3 of them pinned down. More sounds of combat. An explosion rocked the house. Lyra stumbled, but Carlos steadied her. They reached the safe room, a reinforced chamber in the basement. Carlos ushered her inside. Stay here until one of us comes for you, he said. Don't open this door for anyone else. Then he was gone, rushing back upstairs to join the fight. Lyra sat in the darkness, listening to the battle above. Every sound made her flinch. Every moment stretched into eternity. She thought of Jake out there, facing professional killers. Thought of Amy, Nicole, and Carlos risking their lives for her, because she had asked for asylum. Because she had made a choice that put them all in danger. Time lost meaning. Then finally the sounds of combat faded. Silence fell. Footsteps approached the safe room. Lyra pressed herself against the far wall, heart pounding. A knock. 3 quick raps, then 2 slow ones. Jake's pattern. She opened the door. Jake stood there, and Lyra's relief turned to horror. His armor was scorched and damaged. Blood ran down his left arm. His face was pale but determined. It's over, he said. We got them all. You're safe. Then he swayed, and Lyra realized just how much blood he was losing. Carlos, she screamed. The medic came running. Together they got Jake to a chair. Carlos worked quickly, cutting away damaged armor, exposing a deep wound in Jake's shoulder. Plasma shot, Carlos muttered. Caught the edge of it. Lucky it wasn't center mass. Lyra could not move. Could not think. She watched Carlos work with efficient speed. Stopping the bleeding, applying synthesized skin, administering medication. He'll be fine, Carlos said, looking up at Lyra. Hurts like hell and he'll need real medical attention, but he's stable. Jake's eyes focused on Lyra. Despite the pain, he smiled. Told you, he said weakly. Too stubborn to die. Something broke inside Lyra. She moved to his side, taking his uninjured hand in both of hers. Her hands were shaking again, but this time not from fear. You could have died, she whispered. You almost died protecting me. That's the job, Jake said. His voice was getting stronger as the medication kicked in. No regrets. I have regrets, Lyra said fiercely. Tears ran down her face. I regret putting you in danger. I regret that you were hurt because of my choices. I regret, Jake interrupted gently. He squeezed her hand with his good one. Stop, this isn't your fault. Those assassins made their choice. We made ours. And I'd make the same choice again every time. Why? The word came out as a sob. Why would you do this for me? Jake's smile softened into something Lyra had never seen before. Something tender and vulnerable. 6 months changed everything. Lyra stood before the communications array, preparing to broadcast across the galaxy. Behind her, Jake and his team stood ready. Ahead of her, the future hung uncertain. The past months had been a storm of activity. Working with human intelligence and sympathetic Vexians in secret, Lyra had gathered evidence. Documents showing corruption in the Imperial Court, records of weapons deals with pirates, proof that hardliners were planning unprovoked attacks on human colonies to start a war. Now she would share it all with the galaxy. Ready when you are, Amy said from the control console. Lyra took a deep breath. She wore traditional Vexian robes, her hair arranged in the royal style, but she also wore a small pin on her collar, a gift from Jake. Earth and Vexia, their symbols intertwined. "Begin transmission," she said. The recording started. Lyrie spoke clearly and calmly, laying out everything she had learned. The conspiracy to assassinate her, the plans for war, the lies told to the Vexian people about humanity's intentions. She showed documents, played intercepted communications, named names. It took an hour to present everything. When she finished, she looked directly into the camera. "I am Princess Lyrie, daughter of Emperor Thane, and I speak these truths because silence would make me complicit in atrocity. The hardliners in our empire have betrayed everything we should stand for. They have chosen violence over diplomacy, conquest over cooperation. I call on all Vexians who believe in honor and peace to stand against them. The galaxy is watching. History is watching. Let us choose wisely." The transmission ended. Amy began uploading it to every major network in known space. "Well," Nicole said dryly, "you've certainly made an impression." Within hours, the broadcast went viral. It dominated news across dozens of worlds. Reactions came swiftly and varied. Some praised Lyrie's courage, others called her a traitor. On Vexian worlds, protests erupted. The moderate faction that had been quietly opposing the hardliners suddenly found their voice. The hardliners struck back with propaganda, but the evidence Lyrie presented was too thorough to dismiss. More and more people began questioning the official narratives. 3 days after the broadcast, Lyrie received a message through secure channels. The source shocked everyone. It was from Emperor Thane himself, her father. The message was brief and carefully worded. He wanted to meet with her in person on neutral ground, a space station jointly operated by multiple species. He would come with minimal security as a show of good faith. "It's a trap," Nicole said immediately when they discussed it. "Maybe," Jake agreed, "but maybe not. If the Emperor is genuinely trying to navigate this situation, he might need to talk to Lyrie directly." "And if he's not?" Nicole pressed. "If the hardliners are using him as bait, then we'll deal with it," Jake said firmly. "But we can't ignore this opportunity." Lyrie looked at Jake. His shoulder had healed well, though he still favored it slightly when tired. In the months since the attack, something had deepened between them. They had not spoken of it directly, but it was there in every glance, every conversation, every moment they spent together. "I have to go," Lyrie said. "If there is any chance to prevent war to reach my father, I must try." "Then we go together," Jake said simply. The space station was called Unity Point, a neutral zone used for diplomacy and trade. When Lyrie's transport arrived, escorted by human warships, the station was already crowded with media and observers from across the galaxy. This meeting would be watched by billions. The Vexian Imperial ship was already docked. Lyrie saw it through the viewport and felt her heart clench. That ship represented home, family, everything she had left behind. Jake stood beside her, his hand finding hers. "You've got this," he said quietly. The meeting was arranged in a secure conference room. Lyrie entered with Jake and Nicole flanking her. On the other side, Emperor Thane waited with his own guards. Lyrie had not seen her father in over a year. He looked older, tired. The weight of empire showed in every line of his face. For a long moment, father and daughter simply looked at each other. Then Thane spoke. "My daughter, you have caused quite a commotion. I speak only truth, father." "I know." Thane's voice was heavy with sorrow. "I have known for years what was happening in my government, the corruption, the conspiracies, but I was weak. I told myself I needed to maintain stability, to avoid civil war. In my fear, I allowed evil to flourish." He stepped closer and Lyrie saw tears in his eyes. "They tried to kill you because you were brave where I was cowardly. You spoke truth where I remained silent. You chose honor when I chose convenience." Thane's voice broke. "I am so sorry, Lyrie. Sorry I could not protect you. Sorry I failed our people." Lyrie felt her own tears falling. "Father, The alarm cut through the moment. Explosions rocked the station. Through the windows, Lyrae saw ships attacking. Vexian ships, bearing the marks of the hardline faction. "They knew!" Nicole shouted, weapon already drawn. "They knew, and they're trying to kill both of you." The conference room erupted into chaos. The Emperor's guards moved to protect him. Jake pulled Lyrae toward cover. More explosions. The station shuddered under the assault. "We need to evacuate," Jake said, speaking into his communicator. "All personnel to escape pods." But the way to the pods was blocked by armed attackers, hardline Vexian soldiers, willing to kill their own emperor to achieve their goals. The battle was fierce and close. Jake and Nicole fought alongside the Imperial guards defending the room. Lyrae and her father crouched behind overturned furniture, helpless. Then Lyrae saw it. A weapon lying near a fallen guard. Without thinking, she grabbed it. "Lyrae, no!" Jake shouted, but she was already moving. A hardliner was advancing on the Emperor's position, weapon raised. Lyrae fired. She had never used a weapon before. The recoil surprised her, throwing off her aim. But the shot was close enough to make the soldier turn. That moment of distraction let one of the guards take him down. Jake was at her side instantly. "Are you hurt?" "No," Lyrae said. Her hands were shaking again, but this time from adrenaline rather than fear. "But I could not just hide. Not anymore." Jake's expression was a mix of concern and pride. "Okay, stay close to me. If you're going to fight, let's do it smart." The battle raged through the station. More defenders arrived, both human and loyalist Vexian forces. Slowly, they pushed back the attackers. In the chaos, Lyrae fought beside Jake. She was not skilled, not trained, but she tried. When someone aimed at Jake's blind spot, she called out a warning. When a wounded guard needed help, she dragged him to cover. And everywhere, cameras captured it all. The image of the Vexian princess and the human soldier fighting back to back spread across the galaxy faster than light. Two people from different worlds, united against a common enemy. It became a symbol. Finally, the attackers were defeated. The station was secured. Emperor Thane stood in the damaged conference room, looking at his daughter with something like wonder. "You have become someone I barely recognize," he said. "Stronger than I ever was, braver than I could imagine." "I learned from the best," Lyrae said, glancing at Jake. Thane followed her gaze. He studied Jake for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "This human taught you courage?" "He taught me that courage was already inside me," Lyrae corrected. "He taught me that strength comes in many forms, that being afraid does not mean being weak." The Emperor turned to Jake. "Sergeant Morrison, you have protected my daughter, respected her, and helped her become the leader she was meant to be. I am in your debt." Jake looked uncomfortable with the formal gratitude, but nodded. "I just did what was right, sir." "What is right is rarely easy," Thane said. He turned back to Lyrae. "The hardliners have revealed themselves. This attack will be their undoing. Support for the moderate faction is growing, but we need a symbol. Someone who represents the future, rather than the past." He took a deep breath, then made his announcement loud enough for the cameras to record. "I name Princess Lyrae my heir. She will return to our homeworld as Crown Princess with full authority to implement reforms. The Vexian Empire will change. We will pursue peace with humanity and all species. We will root out corruption and embrace a new path." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Lyrae stared at her father in disbelief. "Father, I am not ready." "You are more ready than I ever was," Thane interrupted. "You have seen both worlds now. You understand what we can become, and you have allies who can help guide us." He glanced at Jake again. "Including this young man, if he is willing to serve as military liaison to our world." Jake looked at Lyrae. She looked back at him. In that moment, unspoken questions and answers passed between them. "I would be honored," Jake said. The journey back to the Vexian homeworld took 2 weeks. Lyrae spent the time preparing, learning, and planning with advisors from both her people and humanity. Jake was with her constantly, offering support, and insight. On the final night before they reached the homeworld, Lyrae found Jake on the observation deck of the transport. He stood watching the stars, lost in thought. "Nervous?" she asked, joining him at the window. "Terrified," Jake admitted with a smile. "I'm about to step onto the homeworld of a species that was taught to fear humanity. Not sure my charming personality will be enough." "You have already won over one Vexian," Lyrae said softly. "The most stubborn one, I think." Jake turned to face her fully. "Lyrae, I need to tell you something.